Thanks very much. And thank you very much to Adelaide for setting this presentation up for us, introduce Aurwest Resources. Thanks to everyone who is listening in today as well. My name is Colin Christensen, President and CEO of the company. And I've also asked Elmer Stewart to join us today. Elmer is also a director and professional geologist, and he'll be providing some technical comments on a few slides a little later in the presentation. Aurwest currently trades on the CSE, and symbol is AWR. Next slide, just your basic forward-looking statements. You can read at your leisure. So why invest in Aurwest? As the slide should suggest, why are we asking people to consider investing in Aurwest? Typically, that's a function of the quality of the properties, knowledge and experience of the management and directors, and obviously it's helpful if we have a bullish commodity cycle with investor interest to support that. We do feel we're in the early stages of a new gold and base metal cycle, and we think we can provide investors with really great exposure and leverage while focusing on gold. We've recently acquired a very attractive gold property in central Newfoundland, where we are now one of the largest landholders in our area, covering approximately 23,600 hectares. And we're moving quickly towards being an active explorer in this part of the district. We also have a very large, early stage, large copper gold porphyry property in an active area of central British Columbia. Our board has a very well-rounded base of experience in a cross-section of business. All our directors have had extensive experience in the public markets. Next slide. So we're just getting started. We're likely new to a lot of investors on the street. We currently have approximately $1 million in cash and a clean balance sheet. CapEx plans are essentially fully funded through 2022. And as we do have the ability to bring additional capital into the company through the exercise of warrants if we need it. And these warrants are actually currently in the money at their first strike price. So we think currently we're trading, a fairly significant discount to our peers, and maybe I'll just speak to that slide a little bit later. The two charts on the right hopefully give you some evidence, I think, to the renewed confidence investors are seeing in the company over the last year based on the progress that we have made. A little bit of content that we'll be viewing through the balance of the presentation. And again, a little bit of overview background. Since taking control of the company in early 2020, we've succeeded with a few significant milestones. We've recapitalized the company through 2 equity raises totaling $1.6 million, stabilized the company financially. We've completed an internal technical review on our stellar copper gold porphyry property in BC, which we hope to be able to bring more news out to the market shortly. But most importantly, we completed the acquisition of this large strategic gold property in central Newfoundland, which covers, again, 23,600 hectares along a strong structural fault zone referred to as the Golden Corridor or Gold Belt. And this is now often being compared to the Abitibi Gold Belt in Ontario and Quebec. Just a quick look at the balance sheet. The first thing we did when we assumed control of the company last year was to do a small raise in May 2020 for a little over $260,000 in order to really, just clean up the balance sheet. And we did that. Secondly, we made the decision to focus the company or refocus the company into gold exploration. And this decision allowed us to raise approximately $1.3 million, mainly through some key broker friends of ours here in Calgary, friends and business associates, and high net worth investors within our network. We currently have approximately 59.5 million shares outstanding. And the warrants included in the financing, the unit offering completed last year, provide an incentive for our close investor network to continue to help finance the company if needed for future capital. We also have a fairly, strong insider ownership amongst the management and directors, and certainly amongst our investor base. Certainly, exercise of any of them in the money warrants would increase our cash on hand to approximately $3.7 million. Just looking a little bit at our senior management, I've been involved in the Canadian public markets 35 years, of which 25 have really been focused in the mineral exploration business and internationally and domestically, where I was mainly involved in the financing, operations, and management side of the business. Warren Brown is our CFO. Warren majored in accounting, University of Saskatchewan. He holds several financial designations, including CFA. Warren has had well over 20 years of experience in the Canadian public markets, including investment banking and the natural resource sector, oil and gas service industry. Brian Willett. Brian is a professional geologist, lives in the province of Newfoundland. We think it's important to have someone in this position local in province, and he's responsible for all of our exploration activities in the province. He's worked extensively with Capstone Mining previously on various advanced and early stage exploration programs in North and South America, and most recently he was with Maritime Resources in Newfoundland. Just a quick look at our board of directors. Other than Warren and myself, Elmer Stewart, professional geologist, been extremely involved in the, very actively involved and extremely involved in the mineral business for over 40 years, both domestic and internationally. And he has been directly involved in putting 4 mines into production. And Elmer and I have worked together for many years, and he's currently the president of Copper Fox Metals. Cam McDonald, Brian Prokop have each had extensive financial experience with both private and public companies. Cam has held senior management roles involving investor relations, capital markets, and finance well over 15 years. And Brian has over 30 years of diversified natural resource capital markets experience. He has held senior officer positions within the consumer products industry and oil and gas sector. And he's also previously served a senior role in institutional equity sales for National Bank, equity sales at Canaccord, and he was a senior oil and gas analyst for Peters & Co. here in Calgary. So got very, very experienced, well-rounded group of guys who are offering a lot of good advice from a director's standpoint. With this slide, I think I'd like to introduce Elmer, have him provide us with some of his technical comments and why we're so excited about what we see happening on our Paradise Lake property. So just over to you, Elmer.
Thanks, Colin. Colin, will you advance the slides when I ask you to do so? The slide you have in front of you, sorry, go back to the last slide.
Sorry.
This slide basically shows you the province of Newfoundland and the location of the 2 major structures which actually form what we're referring to now as the Central Newfoundland Gold Belt. It also shows you the location of Aurwest's project on one of those structural belts located between the Marathon and Valentine Lake Gold Deposit and Sokoman's high-grade discovery. The other structural trend is a little further to the east of us, and that's where the guys at Newfound Gold are having some fairly significant high-grade gold intersections. But before I go on, I wanted to basically explain our exploration model. We're looking for orogenic style gold deposits here, and they are always related to major structural features, such as you see on the slide in front of you in the province of Newfoundland. And what we're doing is essentially we're looking, because the project itself is overlain or underlain by the Botwood sediments, we're looking for reactivated basement faults and along the structure, and we cover approximately 30 kilometers of that structure. And essentially what we're doing is we're looking along this interpreted location of the structure, looking for areas where post-sediment faults were reactivated, allowing hydrothermal fluids and intrusives to come up through the sandstone, and this is what we're currently seeing on surface. The historical work has outlined a number of gold showings on surface, gold grains and till anomalies, and intrusive activity in the sandstone as well. And those are the areas we're going to be focusing on because essentially we think they potentially represent hydrothermal activity in the basement below the sandstone. Next slide. Thank you, Colin. This is a generalized slide showing essentially what I basically said. There's a few features there on the regional highlights. We are within the Botwood Basin. We've got 30 kilometers of strike length of the belt covered within our faults, and we're of the view if you're not on or very close to the regional scale structures, then your chance of potential of finding a deposit goes down quite considerably. The airborne work that was completed in the western side along the western major regional scale fault in 2019 was extremely enlightening, in that it provided a lot of detailed information that wasn't previously available in this part of Newfoundland. We are in an emerging gold belt, and the key word is emerging. It's early stage. I'm sure there's a lot of mineralization that's going to be found, and we're going to learn a lot more about the controls of mineralization as we go forward. Next slide. Thank you, Colin. This is a regional scale magnetic pattern map of the province of Newfoundland. And as you can see on there, the heavy red lines are the location of the major regional scale structures, and the little yellow stars are the location of the gold showings and deposits and significant discoveries that have been recorded to date in Newfoundland. Clearly, as you can see, there's a strong correlation between the regional scale structures and the gold deposits in Newfoundland. Next slide. This is a little bit of a close-up, and this is a geological setting that was there prior to the magnetic surveys that were flown in 2019. Clearly, you can see the structure. You can see where the Valentine Lake deposit is to the southwest, and you can see the Sokoman discovery to the northeast. Outlined on the property, you can see the location of the Aurwest projects. And also you can see, as in these yellow stars, those are the locations of gold showings in the sandstone. Next slide. After the 2019 airborne survey was flown, clearly you can see there's an alternate interpretation of the geology of the area. The original red or location of the major structure there. But if you look at the distribution of the geology and you look at the magnetic signature, there's an alternate interpretation. And the prior interpretation didn't have the advantage of the 2019 survey that we have. And so you can actually see there's a structural corridor there, and that honors the distribution of the geology, and it also honors the distribution of the magnetic signature. So there's a strong correlation with the gold showings, the historical gold showings on the Paradise Lake property within that structural corridor. Next. This shows you a first vertical derivative map of the airborne survey that was done in 2019. It's interestingly enough, you see they're showing up as there's 4 target areas on the property, one of which is Paradise Lake. We like that because it's got visible golden outcrop. The second one in Paradise Lake and down in Miguel's Lake, you can see there are 3 major target areas, and these target areas cover all the known gold showings in the sandstone, all the golden grain till anomalies in the sandstone. It also shows areas of intrusive activities, alteration, quartz veining, and magnetic low. So those will be our primary targets going forward in 2021. Next slide. So Colin, with that, I will turn it back to you.
Thanks very much, Elmer. Just capital expenditures, a quick look at our model over the next 4 years. Based on our option agreements we currently have with the vendors, with the cash on hand and warrant structure we have, we think we're quite well funded through at least 2022, which should give us enough time to assess the technical merits of Paradise Lake. Obviously, with drilling success, we'll be looking for additional capital beyond 2022 to meet our spending obligations under these agreements. Valuation, current valuation, this is always the big question. I'm sure a lot of the presenters have been trying to analyze this particular issue because, a lot of the companies, there's probably 10 to 15 of us, we're all in the early stage exploration in this part of Newfoundland. And essentially in this early stage of exploration where Aurwest is at currently right now, most of the share value is speculative. Based on the quality of the gold district you're in, strategic location of the property, the stage of exploration, and just the general trend in commodity prices. And as we know, all properties are not created equal, and really the true value of the property can only be recognized with successful drilling results. a couple of metrics we use a bit internally to assess comparable value, with the board and various of our investors. The value comparison with our peer groups are kind of an enterprise value per hectare model and market cap structure. And I think, from those two particular charts, it shows that we think we're quite undervalued compared to various other exploration companies working in the area. And so now the challenge is really up to us to try and narrow that gap in the current valuation. Our effort will focus on marketing the story to investors and actually our shareholders as well, and really promote the great strategic land position we have. And I think we'll start to see our price reflect higher prices in the future as we get more active on our property, and hopefully higher prices with good exploration results. Just going forward, Paradise Lake and Newfoundland, just to bring you up to the speed on where we're at, work permits have been filed with the provincial government. Our geological team is in place. Q2, Q3 CapEx of approximately $350,000 with a full year commitment spend on our agreement of $500,000. That'll be underway, including a fairly extensive till sampling, mapping, and prospecting on selected high priority targets. The objective is to establish drilling targets by Q3. And in British Columbia, in our Stellar project, we hope to be able to soon put a preliminary sampling and prospecting program together for the third quarter. Just want to thank you very much to the Adelaide Group. It's the end of our presentation, and we may and may not, just depending on the time, have time for a few questions.
Colin and Elmer, we do have a minute or two for questions if anyone has any. Just on the M&A side, maybe you can talk about what your strategy is there a little more in depth. What stage of asset and geography you look?
Yeah, that's a good question. I maybe flipped through that quickly on that slide. It's interesting because most of the activity currently has been done. And if you look at a map of where we're at in central Newfoundland, essentially you've got a lot of very aggressive companies who are very actively involved in early stage exploration. We don't see many mid-sized companies, large companies who are active in the area right now. And like a lot of areas, this year, it's going to be very, very active. I see Exploits is going to be drilling soon from watching their program the other day. The K9 guys just directly north of us, they're hoping to have a drilling program underway Q2, end of Q2. So what all of this, my sense is that because of the substantial success that we've seen in this district area so far, and with ongoing success, more companies getting to the drilling stage, there's going to be a tremendous amount of interest being shown by companies a lot larger than just pure exploration companies. And that, I think, will set up a landscape where more and more companies are going to be needing to raise more money, and larger companies may come in, wanting to get exposure to this emerging new gold district.
Well, that's great. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it.
And thank you very much for having us. And